All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. The EntreArchitect Community Annual Meeting is coming up in less than a week now. Actually, starts the opening reception is next Tuesday night. So November 1st through 3rd in Austin, Texas, coming up very quickly. So today, I wanted to give you a chance to meet some of our partners that are helping to make this event a reality. If you haven't heard about it before, what I'm talking about is the EntreArchitect Community Annual Meeting, and it is the business conference for entrepreneur architects. In fact, it is the first ever live conference that's dedicated just to you, just to small firm entrepreneur architects. I started this live stream series all the way back in August now. And all of these conversations have been related to this conference that's coming up next week. And I wanted to do this because it can give you a preview of the speakers that are going to talk and also bring our partners into the mix, which has been a lot of fun over the last week or so for these conversations. So, good morning. Again, my name is Jeff Eccles. If we've never met before, I'm the Vice President of Community Engagement at EntreArchitect. It's the largest worldwide community of entrepreneur architects, and I'm also the host of Context and Clarity Live. Today, I'm joined by one of our partners, Jack Sadler. He's co-founder and CEO of Part3, and he's based in Toronto. So, Jack, first, thank you for partnering with us at EntreArchitect for this conference. Without you, this could not happen. So, thanks for that, and thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And I do know we were talking about this before we went live that many people who are familiar, who are part of the EntreArchitect community or listen to any of the podcasts that are on the Gable Media Network might go, "Hey, where have I heard that before?" Well, ad roll in I think all of the Gable Media properties right now are probably playing an ad for Part3. So I love that. I love that for this opportunity. And I think it goes a long way towards building relationships, right? We've got this know, like, and trust that's necessary, especially in this industry. So, thinking about that, why don't we just start out with who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you've heard the ads and I hope they're useful. I think it's our way of trying to immerse ourselves in the industry and become more familiar with entrepreneur architects. Part3 is a really young company. We're entrepreneurs ourselves. We're in a tangential industry. We're working with architects day in, day out. But the story of how we got here, my background is in software development and product management. So I've always been in roles where I look at a problem and we try and figure out how software can help solve that. I'd never started a business before this one, a couple of failed attempts. But this idea really came from my wife and co-founder at Part3, which I think not many people know, but Jess, who's the co-founder and head of customer experience, she is also my wife. And her background is in construction and architecture project management. She went to school for architectural science. She actually moved into the general contractor side and worked in project management there for 6 years before jumping back to the architecture side, where she managed the construction side of things at a large firm and a medium-sized firm. So together, we started to see that construction in particular is quite a burdensome phase of the project for architects. And the smaller the firm, the more detrimental it can be. So not only did we start to see that, hey, there's a lot of Excel, Word, manual email, passing things around, chasing people, even strain on personal relationships within a project team. But we also started to see that this was deliberately stopping firms from making a profit. Firms were
Mm.
focusing on CA as how do I not lose all the money we made in the design phase? And we felt, well, that shouldn't be the case. You're adding value all through construction. You're a consultant. You're reviewing code. You're reviewing progression of construction. You're certifying payments to the contractor. You're adding value to every step of this phase. We wanted to help give back the control of that construction phase to the architect. Take control of your tools, your process, take control of the data, surface some insights to help you run better teams and help you make some more money during the CA phase of the project. So that's how Part3 came to be. It's this blend of those two different backgrounds. We couldn't have made it happen if we weren't lucky enough to meet our third co-founder, who's the one who actually knows how to turn fuzzy ideas that we had into a reality. And that's what made Part3 become a real software, thanks to Corey joining the team and the three of us bringing it to where it is today.
So one of the things that I think is fantastic about that story and why part three, right? Why you're doing this is that um, there are a lot of firms, a lot of small firms that I hear this over and over. They say they're having trouble selling construction administration, the construction administration phase. Their clients. And this is going to depend on the project type and the client and the sophistication of the client, et cetera. But there are enough people in our community that are experiencing exactly what you're saying. They're either losing money or they're having trouble selling the idea of, hey, here's this construction admin phase that you're going to need to pay me for X number of site visits or whatever. So I love what you're saying about the fact that, yes, the architect brings a ton of value into this phase. Back when I was still in the practice, one of the ways that we positioned construction admin was, hey, this is us protecting your investment in design. Right? This is us making sure that you're paying us to design this thing. It'd be a real shame for this to go into construction and not be built according to your investment in this design. So I love this concept. um, so how, once you got this up and running, once you came up with this idea, you saw the problem, you came up with the idea for the solution. um, how have you started to implement it?
Oh man, we went through every cliche tech startup phase that you can imagine. This
Yeah.
whole thing started with an idea in a basement. The first step was when Jess and I had to pitch it to our co-founder and sat there, okay, yeah, I like this, we're in. So we took some sketches and some sticky notes and we spoke to anyone in architecture that would listen to us. We asked questions, we got them to tell us, what they loved and what sucked about our idea. We made it better. We turned those sketches into a real prototype that they could click around, and we watched them play with it and watched them struggle to use it. That turned into a first version in real code. We were lucky enough to find a really reputable firm, like a mid-size architect in Toronto, that was willing to be our guinea pig. And then even better, their first project was a joint venture with a small firm that we were able to partner with. So we got two perspectives at once. And that turned into the first version of Part3. So by now in our timeline, we're sort of, that first version was end of 2020. So all of this happened during a pandemic with tons of uncertainty, which I know a lot of the listeners and a lot of the entrepreneurial architect community are in the same boat. But we definitely had our moments of, this is the wrong time. Maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. But we started to feel there was a bigger need and a stronger need. So we continued the path, turned that first scrappy prototype into a real product. And then 2021 was really the year where we started and scaled and started the trajectory that brought us to where we are today, where we're working with architects of all sizes, from the 3, 4, 5 person firms, all the way up to the $500 million publicly listed companies in Canada and in the States. So we work with everyone in between, but it's really there to be for architects, by architects, helping you manage construction and helping you try and figure out how you can make a bit more money, cut those costs, and add some efficiency to the CA phase.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. It just it amazes me because this is what it amazes me because I'm always amazed when architects are talking about not doing construction admin. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of layers to that. In fact, where I am in the state of Indiana, if it's a project, if it's what we would call a Type A project, which would be a commercial building, essentially, if we way oversimplify it, you file it at the state level, and the state doesn't call it construction administration. Um, the state has another term for it, which most architects should be objecting to based on their contract language. But it's actually required. You're signing off saying that I'm going to observe this construction. So that's one of the things that just kind of boggles my mind is, isn't it required And if so, are you really giving that away? Are you making money on that? Are you losing money, from the business side of it? So I love this.
Yeah, I definitely understand it too. Like the whole time when you're pricing your work, like you want to win the work, you want to add this
Yep.
project to your portfolio. You're there because you want to
Yep.
design a fantastic building, but you're adding value in the construction administration
Right.
phase. And I think any business, like to abstract outside of architecture, even outside of
Mhm.
construction, any business is uncomfortable with pricing. I
Yeah.
think that's part of it. If you don't feel uncomfortable when you're presenting your price, you're probably not pricing yourself high enough.
That's an
And when
excellent
it comes
point.
to if it comes to construction administration, if you truly believe your client can't administer this project without you, or that your design is at risk without you there to handhold it through that phase, you should be pricing yourself higher. So I think it's going to be an uncomfortable pattern for most entrepreneur architects, but it's definitely a phase where you add tons of value. And it's the biggest risk to the project if you're not involved.
Yeah, yeah. This is, whether you're watching this live or on the replay, I hope you're paying attention because this is a really, in my mind, this is a really important conversation right here. Um, so how does it work? Right. I've got a couple of projects in the pipeline. I'm getting, close to the construction phases on some of these. How do I use part 3? How does it work for me?
The first step will be, once you've gone through the tender phase, you've got the contractor assigned. What's going to happen is everyone's going to start to bring their own toolkit to the table. So
Yep.
what we tend to see is clients, contractors push certain software or processes or practices in. Every architect at some point has been asked to collaborate in program or something like that. But what part 3 is going to do is integrate into that ecosystem. So you still keep your clients and your contractor happy. They can still use the tools of their choice, but we're giving the architect the ability to start owning their side of the tool. So we want to have you manage the consultant team in one space. So the first step is before that first submittal or that first RFI gets distributed, you want to make sure as an architect, you've set up the platform with your team, you've got an onboarding session hosted by us, and we've introduced you to the software. Very little configuration needed, it's ready out of the box, and you're there ready to create and respond to those first shop drawings. You can react and issue changes to any drawings that need updating, issue site instructions, bulletins, go to site using part 3 on your phone to create field reports and site visits. This all happens in one space. And then part 3 becomes the area that you work in. So instead of you needing now to create your AIA documents and your G forms outside and in Word, or create Word templates to help you manage your field reviews and all of that, you create them in part 3. And then part 3 becomes your distribution mechanism. So not only are you benefiting sort of from the automation throughout that phase, but you get to collaborate with everyone in one space. And in that activity is data. So we're able to understand how long are you taking to respond? How long is your mechanical or your electrical engineer taking to respond and work with you on certain aspects? And this is all insights. So it actually allows us as a software to shine a light on what's working well in your projects, what's not working well, and where there's an opportunity to improve. So these are the small things that without that kind of data, you really can't be sure if you're maximizing your efficiency during CA. So this is the way that you can just remove that uncertainty and be dead sure that this is the best way that we're doing it. We know how to improve next time. We know how we can price CA next time round as well.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's as you were describing that, it dawned on me that you were talking about the different templates and everything that's built into the software. That's one thing that comes up in my mastermind group all the time. Hey, does anybody have a CA checklist or a template for this, that, or the other related to construction administrations? I love that that's built in, and also what you just said, right? Understanding if we are pricing our CA services right or not. Um,
Yeah.
that is super important. I think, wow, I love this. I want to go back into it and and start using
I'll
this
send you a
software.
link. Yeah.
This is excellent. Yeah. Um, so when we think about this, my next question was going to be what piece of advice, and I guess it still is. What piece of advice do you have for an entrepreneur architect that wants to build a better business? On one hand, I think this is very obvious. I think that, you've identified a fantastic gap or white space here. But thinking about part three or even beyond, is there a piece of advice that you have for whether it's somebody that's just starting out, because we do have a lot of people in this community that have, understandably, I think, since March of 2020 started their own firm. We have people in the community that are getting ready to start their own firms, and then of course we have a lot of people in the community that have been running for a while on their own, some as many as 30 years. But um, is there a piece of advice for
Yeah.
entrepreneur architects that want to build a better business and practice in their own way?
Yeah, definitely. Advice is always tough to give. I'm not an architect,
Right.
but what I am is I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner,
Yeah.
and I speak to hundreds of principals and firm owners across North America. So I do have a perspective, and hopefully that it allows me to give advice with some level of credibility. And you can choose to take it or leave it. But the construction administration side is low hanging fruit. It's there to be priced right, and it's there as a value added service you offer your customers. So I should absolutely preface with, from a biased point of view, you should be pricing yourselves based on the value you add.
Mhm.
But I think more broadly, we are heading into a pretty tough market. Now, recession or not, and we probably don't need to get into that. We'll go way over the half hour, and honestly, I think probably throwing out there, probably not a full recession. But the market is tough. It's hard to hire. The
Mhm.
owners that you're working with are more cost focused than ever. There is some pressure to just cut costs to win work, and some pressure to cut costs knowing you're going to have to change materials or even move the date of construction back. Um, so my advice is to make sure you're planning effectively. And that can be abstracted back to any business at all, not just architecture firms. But don't be the cliche architect. The cliche is you're either a good architect design firm or you're a good architect business firm. I think in the economic environment we're facing, you have to be both. So that isn't as complicated as it sounds. You can put a plan in place. I'm not talking about creating a huge 10-page strategy document and following it letter by letter. But what you can do is just document your strategic goals. Are you trying to move into new competitive areas? Are you trying to reduce efficiency or reduce costs and focus on efficiency? Are you trying to hire for some key roles? You can spend a few hours every quarter just creating some really high level goals, keeps your team aligned. You can do it with sticky notes and in photos to take them all. But it gives you the ability to follow and keep aligned on some higher level goals. When you've got that, you can figure out how to measure it. Do you actually know how to measure whether you're moving into those new markets, whether you're keeping customers happy as you scale back on costs? Um, and how are you tracking all of this? So I think my advice is always to just make sure you focus on the smallest number of strategic goals that make sense and to make sure you can actually track and measure that throughout.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I mean, you're not an architect, but you have, as an entrepreneur, you have shared DNA with everybody in our community, right? It's the EntreArchitect community. Uh, Everybody that participates and is engaged in this community is thinking about how they can build their own business and how they can practice the way that they want to practice and all that. So I think that advice is incredibly valid for everybody here. It's great advice. So I hope everybody takes that. I want to jump back to something you said as you preface that too. I know I keep coming back to this, but it's the idea um, of the value that you're adding to the process. And I'm with you. I don't. And I was talking to Todd Redding yesterday from Charette Venture Group. We touched on this briefly as well as this idea of recession. I don't. I don't think there's a big recession coming. I think there are a lot of things that indicate otherwise. But will it be tough financial times? Absolutely. Right. We're headed towards something, and I think that idea of the value that you add, and specifically because of what we're talking about in construction administration, that's one thing that a lot of people in our community are wondering about. Right? If I'm designing something right now, what is the supply chain going to do? what are changes in construction material cost going to do? Are they going to um, um, convince my client to put the project on hold, or what's going to happen? I firmly believe that if you can say, hey, listen, the value add, or one of the values that we add to this process, is staying on top of this construction process, helping administer this construction process. I think that is another great piece of advice in the context of wherever it is that we're headed. So when you're talking about part three and the ability to really shine the light on that value add, I think that's really important, maybe more important now than it has been in the past several years.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there are two aspects to it. Like, one is justifying the fee you want to charge, and then
Right,
the
right.
second is making sure you can profit from that fee. So
Yeah.
the way to justify your fee is always around asking the right questions. I think the
Yep.
the owners nowadays are becoming a little more construction savvy. That obviously has a huge variation, but generally speaking, owners are more construction savvy than they once were.
Yeah. Yep.
But that means you can ask those types of questions. Like,
Mhm.
would you be able to react to changes in material, to delays in projects that moves
Yeah.
everything across a different timeline? Would you be able to respond to all that without me, or should I stay on? And that should answer the question for you. That justifies
Yeah.
your fee. Where it
Yeah.
comes to making sure you can be efficient and make a profit, that's where tools like Part3 come in to help you keep your costs down, to automate what you don't need to spend time doing, to reallocate hours to more billable time, to surface information quickly, and to stop you needing to chase everyone else for data and information. Instead, we can centralize it into a single hub. So those are the two prongs that go into that CA phase.
Yeah.
But the value you add is surely unquestionable at this phase.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It reminds me that yesterday in the undergrad section of Pro Practice that I teach, we talked about fees and project management and compensation. And one of the things we focused on is not here are our five phases of design services, one size fits all, but what really matters to your clients. And when you're talking about having these conversations and asking these questions of your clients, that's exactly what we talked about yesterday, is what really matters to them. Are they nervous about
Yeah.
potential changes and all of these things that you're mentioning? If so, let's sell that, right? Let's sell managing that as one of the value adds. Now, you should have taught the class yesterday. I think
I'll,
it
I'll
would have
start with
been
attending. Yeah.
yeah. I think that would have been a great addition to that conversation yesterday. Um, so I love where you're coming from on this. I love the product, and for everybody out there that's watching or listening, now or in the future, you need to check it out. Go to part three. Let me get it up on the screen here. Part3.io for more information about the software solution that Jack is talking about there. So part3.io. And if you just joined us and you're going, why are these guys talking? What's going on here? This is a preview of the EntreArchitect Community Annual Meeting. It's coming up next week. We'll be full 1 week from today. We'll be full swing into the conference. If you need more information about it, go to smallfirmconference.com. You can find out about all the speakers. You can find out about the venue. You can find out about all of our sponsors, our partners, like Jack and Part3. And you can register to join us. There's still time. There are a few tickets left. You can still join us down in Austin. We kick it off with a reception Tuesday night. So that's November 1st. And then 2 full days, Wednesday and Thursday. So November 1st through 3rd down in Austin, Texas. If it's starting to get cold wherever you are, head to Austin. I've heard it's not at all cold in Austin. So join us down in Austin for maybe your last hurrah of warm weather. But go to smallfirmconference.com for more information on that. But more importantly, now go to part3.io for more information about the software that Jack is talking about. Um, One of the things that I like to focus on, and this is sort of a tangent, I suppose, to what we're talking about in terms of part three and construction admin. But I like the idea that we're headed to Austin less than a week from now. And this is what I call, I don't know if this is the right term or not, but I call it a single track conference. So nobody has to make a choice, right? Do I want to hear this speaker or do I want to hear that speaker? They're talking at the same time. You don't have to. It's completely immersive. We're all gonna hear Randy Wilburn speak or Joyce Martyr speak or any of the speakers and get their lessons and get their tools that they're giving us, providing for us, and focus on the things that we're learning from all of them. Plus, we have time to spend with the speakers, with you, with everybody that's going to be there. So I love this idea of the single track conference where all we have to do, put that in quotes, all we have to do is show up and be present and immerse ourselves in this conference. So a question that I like to ask is, do you have any advice for anybody that's headed to a conference like this on preparing? What do I need to do to prepare myself to show up and make the most of an event like this? Any advice for people
Oh
in
man.
that realm?
Yes, I mean so much. The first I mean, single track is great. They're always the best conferences. But one of the reasons that's so great is you get to meet so many people. So I definitely think we'll come back to the learning and the topics and the speakers, but go there with the intention to meet new people and meet
Yeah,
people
that's great
in
advice.
different areas to you. You're going to be able to meet other people in the exact same situation, which is the best kind of support network that any entrepreneur can have. So meet other entrepreneurs. You can share leads, you can share clients, you can share experiences, but meet other people too. I have some different perspectives to you. I'll be looking to learn from you. Hopefully, we can share some stuff and meet people with a totally different perspective or a different lens or experiences. Share some business cards and make some connections. I think that is a huge way to get value from these. And then when you're in the single track and you're in the events, listening to the speakers who have got some really great advice, it can be a little overwhelming. You want to learn everything. It's not really possible. So maybe stay focused and pulling out like a couple of things from key talks and things that you can apply back to your situation or to your project or to your firm.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice. Both pieces of that, I think. So there you have it. Jack Sadler, CEO of Part3 and a partner in the EntreArchitect Community Annual Meeting that's coming up next week in Austin, Texas, November 1st through 3rd. If you're an architect that wants to learn to build a business that allows you to practice in your own way, or maybe you're the employee of a firm but you aspire to build your own practice and do it your own way. Go over to smallfirmconference.com for more information about this conference. Again, it's the first ever live conference that's dedicated just to you, just to the small firm entrepreneur architect. So check it out. I promise that you won't be disappointed. Between now and then, what I would encourage you to do is connect with Jack. Connect with him on LinkedIn. Go over to part3.io. I'll put that back up on the screen here. Connect with Jack. Say, hey, I'd love to learn more about this software that's going to help me manage the construction admin, be profitable in the construction admin phase, sell my value add to my clients in the construction administration phase. So be intentional. Be present when you get there, but be intentional about preparing. I know this conversation about construction administration comes up a lot in this community. This is one that I think you really need to connect on. So hit Jack up before you get there. He's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're all going to be basking in the sun, apparently, in South Texas. So get ready for that. Jack, thank you. Thanks. First of all, thanks for partnering with us. We couldn't pull this off without you. And second, thanks for joining me here today for this conversation.
Yeah, cheers, Jeff, and thanks for hosting such a cool event. It's great to give a totally different perspective and bring different entrepreneurs together. So really excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to hanging out and sharing some conversations, definitely. And to everybody out there, come join us. less than a week away. We'll be full swing this time next Wednesday. We'll be full swing into the conference. So still time to register, still time to show up, still time to reach out to Jack and everybody else. Again, smallfirmconference.com is the place to find all the information you need for that. But really looking forward to this event and meeting a lot. There's a lot of community members that I feel like I know really, really well. We've never met in person.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of people in person.
That's the theme of the 2020s. So great to finally meet you in person.
That's yeah, that needs to be on a t-shirt or something like that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm putting a last minute t-shirt order here. All right, Jack, again, thanks. I appreciate you. Thanks for joining us and everybody else out there. Looking forward to seeing you in Austin. So check out part3.io to learn more about Part 3 and how it can help you. All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Again, I say this every time. Please be well, stay safe, keep those around you safe and well. Find a little bit of time to breathe and relax, some way to rejuvenate. We do these conversations all the time, so you've got to pace yourself. We'll see you for the next one, actually, in just a few minutes. I'm going to be live with C. Ray Harvey. So I'll be back, and we'll see you in person in just about a week. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.